If there is one thing that pros probably hide from you about music production, this has to be it. Listen to this. Sounds grandeur, isn't it? Let's try one more time. Same, isn't it? For past 12 months, I have been studying negative spaces in my songs. And let me tell you, it has been a game changer on my mixing and songwriting skills. So come on, let me hold your hand and explain what this is about. For those who's unfamiliar with negative spaces, here's a LI5 explanation from Visual Arts. Look at this picture. The positive space is the area subject covers, basically chair, and the negative space is everything else. Here's another example. The woman in the front, bright colors, positive space, and everything around it, darker colors, negative space. Conventionally, you may think that positive space should always be the main focus, right? Well, yes and no. Negative space becomes fascinating when the absence of something speaks louder than its presence. Consider this stunning drawing of a forest. Focal point is the tree in the middle, except the tree isn't actually there. It is an outline drawing your attention precisely because it should be there, but it isn't. The patch of canvas has always looked that way, but the inked context around it gives it a new meaning. My favorite example is Mr. Robot, one of my all-time favorite TV shows. Look at this image. Why is there so much emptiness? Why is the main character confined to this tiny corner of the screen? It is unsettling, isn't it? It creates a sense of anxiety, like someone is watching over and we feel exposed and tiny. When used effectively, negative space has the power to amplify and transcend what positive space can achieve alone. And when you realize that, it's like a mind-blowing moment. Now let's shift our focus back to music. Let's start easy and take a look at that chair example. We have the chair, the main subject, and then we have this gradient negative space. The main purpose is basically pushing the chair to the front and making it even more beautiful, let's say. So let's do the same negative space in music. We have chair, this melody, coming from my Mightyville preset pack, very elegant patch. Like that elegant chair, right? So I like to start with the gradient, something that changes the color slowly. What is the best way to do it if you consider about the audio? Probably reverb, right? The reverb can like shimmer around, gradually disappear on the background. Exactly like that gray background. Something like Valhalla. Do you hear our negative space? We can make it a bit beautiful, like this waviness of the gradient, a little bit delay, so delay can pan around, smooth out the gradient a bit more. Let's take a simple echo. This doesn't take away from the chair because we are also ducking and using it slightly. It's just beautiful, just fills the negative space. The one thing is like you can have different color themes, right? You can have gray, you can have blue, you can have green, whatever color you pick. So we need some kind of a bit more flat color on the background. We don't want anything that is too complicated, something simple. To do that, take something like a hybrid reverb and just freeze the reverb to create this tail. We can't do different takes. I like this one. So we sample that, now we have this. Beautiful, but I want it darker, more on the background. Let's tune it down 1 octave. This hopeful, simple color filling the negative space. Remember, our purpose with the negative space was making the chair more beautiful, making our synth more beautiful. And listen how negative space exactly did that. No negative space? With the negative space, this is just the beginning and the simplest example. Are you looking for full-length comprehensive courses and the sound packs that designed for modern electronic music production? Then check out mercurialtones.com. You will find one of the best sound sets, samples, courses, my producer audit, and even my mixing and mastering services. And if you are looking for fun, consider taking a look at our festival. You can either get a remote ticket or join us in Stockholm and party whole night. That was the simplest example, but what if we take the portrait? In this case, the first thing that catches my attention is like this nice, almost flat, dark ambience on the background. And then we have clothes and a chair, a bit more obvious, but they are still darker. Brighter colors are reserved for the subject. And I think this is a very elegant analogy of what we can do in the music. Let's take the same sound, almost change the arpeggio a bit. So we have this. To reflect that slightly smooth, I kept the Echo and Valhalla, but I bring them down, so the main subject is much more in the front. Many years ago, I would always do like the faded drum loops and basses, and I try to find a hook afterwards. My approach to this changed. Now I will just put a kick and then come up with my main subject, the hook, because then I can really think about what I can do that will elevate the power of the positive space. We are very happy with this, but we need to elevate. There is no right and wrong answer with the negative space. There is only intentions. Like, what do we want to do? Do we want to sound it more ambient? Do we want to sound it more emotional? Maybe you can make it a bit more floating in the space with emotions, kind of, right? Let's find a bass that doesn't take too much attention, like the clothes, but we can still hear it. Put the simplest patch that you can get, slight bass progression on the background. That means that we have to slightly adjust the bass notes of the arpeggio. I'm gonna give slight movement and then even darken it out. I think I still need this. Now, the other thing immediately comes into my mind, I can also make emotions a bit pop if I had some type of dark pad sounds on the background. I'm gonna keep it simple. You can always come back and make the color slightly different, a bit more stuff. Something like this. I said a bit chorus, a bit reverb, a bit tail. The main purpose of my negative space here, just to add emotions rather than really changing the positive space, right? Hence, I'm gonna keep super simple, maybe just some vocal also probably like a slight touch of air on top. Perfect. And then blend it in, like that abstract colors in the portrait, right? Beautiful. Do you see? Elevate the main. Now the final piece is I want to feel the rhythm. So it feels like a complete picture. Get that chair there, right? I want this claps just giving us the movement. Deviants, I'm sure we have something cool there. That's actually pretty cool. Layer this with a rim. Here we go. Beautiful. It will really succeed. It will really elevate the main sound with this negative space. And with the negative space. The most important thing about negative space is the intentions. And the more I started to build my tracks with intentions, the more everything come together later during the track. This is a very good ambience. This could be much better, but I think it tells the story. Alright, let's go. If you're enjoying the video up to now, please consider like and subscribe so that I can make more of these for you. Take a look at this drawing here. Is this a tree, our subject, or the village in the behind? Or maybe a more relevant question, would the tree or the village have the same effect if one of them was missing in the picture? You don't have to go minimal for appreciate the positive and negative spaces. Let me show you an example. One of my own track goes more like full maximalist arrangement. And I want you to take a listen and try to figure out which is the positive and negative spaces over here. As I am the artist, I can't tell you which one is actually the subject from my perspective. But from your perspective, you are probably going back and forward. Is that synth sound, synth chords the subject? Or is that vocals are the subject? Are they both the subject? And the rest is the negative space? I tried to make the vocal my positive space. Everything else is a negative space. But that big synth that you're hearing was my way of amplifying those feelings. So without that synth, my vocal wouldn't be the same. And without these vocals, I don't feel like we can get the same desperation. We get that melancholic vibe, but not feeling of desperation and hopelessness. Negative spaces doesn't need to be completely empty and actually could be quite full. Positive spaces can calm down the sound design, and that I explain in this video. Take a look. While taking examples from visual arts is very helpful, there is one thing that doesn't exist in visual arts, and it is the time domain. In music, things change over time, and once you realize that there are so many things to do. For example, this is coming from the track that I made together with Andre Botes. So we have this drop, and then here we have kind of build up to our vocals. What we were looking for was some type of reset and change between the sections. And the answer was just thinking about negative spaces. At the reset, what I'm doing, breaking apart my kick rhythm, giving space from the bass, and utilizing the space with extra claps. Now we have this beautiful emphasis on the next verse. Right? Very simple, minimalistic, negative space idea. Another example of this coming from same track, I wanted to make the drop more obvious. And our idea was like, okay, let's use just the simple vocals so that we don't have anything else. And when the drop hits, then it is more obvious. It is harder. Listen to this.
I miss you. Call me sometime, okay? Bye.
You can also take bigger blocks of time frame. For example, another track that I had inside my head, released in Ritter Busquet, my idea was I had eventually reached this point. Like heads and lead sound and arpeggio, beautiful, but I realized I want to use that big lead sound. And there's no way this lead sound will coming through. And I had to create a variation in the track. So what's going on, if you just zoom out, you see that everything has pads, a lot of stuff here, a lot of stuff there, everything cut out continuously. Create this kind of really negative space inside the arrangement. And this creates this beautiful variation in the track. Makes it much more entertaining and puts the lead sound much more onto the front. Do you see a lot of stuff? Local break? Did you feel how the track resetted? Super cool.